Hey folks, today we'll be making bakery style chewy chocolate chip cookies. What you're gonna need for this is 2 cups of flour, 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. In this case I just used 2 eggs because I'm lazy. You can do that or you can separate them if you'd like. I definitely recommend cracking the eggs into a container first so that you can separate any eggshells. You'll need 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. I've tried 1 cup, a half cup, and 1.5 cups. I find 1.5 cups works the best. It makes a rich, chewy chocolate chip cookie like you'd get in a bakery. And I definitely prefer a more rich chocolate chip cookie. You can mix in whatever nuts you'd like. In this case, I have a half cup of walnuts. You can mix in up to a cup of anything like oatmeal, walnuts, pecans, whatever you'd like. And we're gonna need a half cup of melted butter, as well as some extra butter that'll help us when we're forming the cookies in the end. You'll need a half cup of granulated sugar. I use a 1/4 cup. You can feel free to use a half cup if you'd like, but I find with the richness of the chocolate chips, a 1/4 cup is enough. And you'll need a half cup of brown sugar packed. You can use light or dark, that's up to you. Definitely get some high quality vanilla extract, and you'll need about 2 teaspoons of that. And finally, a 1/4 to a half a teaspoon of baking powder. So now that we have our ingredients, we'll need to preheat our oven to 325 degrees and prep some baking sheets. I'm using 4 of this size. That should fit all of our cookies. You can use a baking sheet directly, but make sure it's a light color. If it's dark, the cookies will get very brown at the bottom. But I definitely recommend using parchment paper. That'll be the best. And the oven is ready. Now that we have our ingredients ready, let's start mixing them in. So we'll start by mixing in our butter and our sugars. Butter and sugar in, and we'll start mixing. We'll add our other sugar in. We want to combine the butter and sugar until they are a good mixed consistency. Now my mixer happened to break, so we replaced the hinge, but unfortunately the new part didn't seem to fit perfectly, and so when it's mixing it actually hits on this edge here. Now that the butter and sugars are incorporated, we can throw in our egg yolk, our vanilla, as well as our baking powder. Eggs in, vanilla mixed up and in. Technically supposed to mix the baking powder with the flour, but I'm a bit too lazy to do that, so I just throw it in when I throw in the vanilla, and it seems to work fine. If you'd like to do it properly, you could definitely mix in the baking powder with the flour. So we throw our baking powder in and mix. If you don't have a stand mixer, that's totally fine. You can do this by hand using a whisk or a spatula to fold all the ingredients together. Or if you have a hand mixer, you can mix it together with that as well. Now that we have the butter, the sugar, the vanilla, the baking powder, the eggs, we can mix in our flour. So let's get that in there. Nice flour shot. Hopefully this looks decent. And we want to start mixing on a low setting because the flour will start to fly up. So we'll start low. And as that combines, we can turn the speed up a little bit. Now for this part, I kind of like to use the dough hook just so it's easier to separate, but this attachment works as well. So now that we have a sort of cookie dough forming, we can mix in our chocolate chips as well as our nuts, and then finally combine them together lightly so that we have a nice cookie dough. In go the nuts. The chocolate chips. And you'll find that some of the chocolate chips and things will fall to the bottom as they're coated with the butter and don't combine nicely with the dough sometimes, so just fold them in before we start to form. So now that we have our cookie dough all done, we're going to form them into small balls. Make them an even size so that they'll bake evenly. You can use whatever size you'd like, but just make sure that they're all sort of an even size. So we have our dough ready. We'll shape them first into small balls and then we'll flatten them out into a cookie shape. I find that the butter, as we saved earlier, is helpful to coat your hands so that they don't stick, and you don't need to grease your parchment paper. There'll be some grease from your hands, so that'll stop them from sticking. And they probably won't stick anyways. Spatula is useful to have on hand so that we can scrape out any cookies that are stuck to the bottom. And so we'll want a ball about 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. You can make them smaller or larger as you see fit. I just find that this size is pretty good. So once you have your ball shape, you'll flatten it into a disc and place them on our cookie sheet. And now we'll do a little time lapse. Now we're ready to put them into the oven. So you'll want to bake these for 12 to 18 minutes. And you can use a thermometer of your liking, like a thermopen, which I find super useful, and check the temperature for somewhere between 175 to 190. Make sure a little bit into the cooking process that you rotate them front to back and left to right. And there you have it, bakery style chewy chocolate chip cookies. Baked to perfection with some milk, of course. Let's crack one open. Absolute, chewy, beautiful, delicious.